Good evening, everyone. It's February 7th and it's 9 p.m. It's time for another installment of Open Action Network's Friend of a Wounded Heart program. We come to you every Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. And whether it rains or snows or we have sunshine at this time, the program will be aired. The program will continue. So we're pleased to have so many of you here logged on this evening, and people are still joining. And we have a very special guest this evening. But before we begin, we will have a word of prayer. Let me pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening and another opportunity to share the friend of a wounded heart to those who have logged on and to those who will view the recordings. We have a very special program in store this evening, and we pray that you will bless our presenter so that he will present with clarity and open our understandings so that we will really fully comprehend what he is sharing with us. But most of all, may we apply it to our lives. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And I am saying welcome again. It is such a pleasure. 16 persons logged on at this time of evening. 16 persons who could be elsewhere. You are so dedicated. You are so a part of this Hope and Action Network's family. And we are grateful. We are truly grateful. Akisha, would you believe we have been here 63 times already? This evening is the 64th time. It doesn't even feel like that, but that's how it is. That's the way it is. That's the statistics, man.
Yes,
How you
yes.
doing?
Good evening, everybody, and I hope everybody's doing fine. Yeah, 64. Every time I see the number, I feel so surprised because it's either I am way behind or something, but I am so very proud of, what we were able to accomplish over all of these sessions. And I think one thing that persons can definitely say is that each session is a learning experience. We learn something new, we take away something new. And I think um, we really can see the hand of that friend of a wounded heart in
That's
our
right.
conversation. So I'm really proud of the work that is being done here and seeing all these names and faces that we are familiar with.
Yes. Yes. And today, Akisha, I had the opportunity to speak to a young man
Mhm.
who I was able to refer to a kindred organization for help. And
Hmm.
he has gotten the help. He logged on to our program and he reached out to me separately. I reached out to him as well. And I passed him on to one of the men's organizations. And,
Mhm.
as I was chatting with him today to see how far he had gotten with respect to dealing with his problems, he said, some bad thoughts came to me at one point.
Hmm.
He said, but I said to myself, it is better I deal with it in the court than have to go and sit behind bars.
Exactly.
And I said, you are a wonderful young man. I want you to just keep your head, keep a level head as you go through this. You will see the end of it. So we are reaching people. We are making inroads. If we could save one,
Yeah.
I will be happy. So let us press on. Let us continue to offer the friend of a wounded heart to people.
Yeah.
But Akisha, why are we here? What's this Hope and Action Network all
Yes.
about? People still ask. So let's hear from
Yeah.
you.
So we are here at this program, but we were really, really here under the umbrella of Hope and Action Network. So at Hope and Action Network, well, we started some years ago. All right. It's funny how time flies. I can literally say some years ago. Right. And as a woman's group, we came up with a vision statement that we are really trying to live by at Open Action Network. And our vision statement reads, a better society built on strong foundations through the empowerment of everyone. And as we plan programs week after week, if you really look at it, it's centered around that vision. All right, so we really do hope that persons feel empowered, that the message is going out there to empower. And when we hear stories like the one you just shared there, we can see that it is making we are actually fulfilling that vision of Hope and Action Network through this Friend
Yes,
of a
we
Wounded
are.
Heart program. Yeah, but you know what? We are on session number 64. So if you are here for the first time, you have a lot to go back and look at. If you're here as a regular person, of course, we are so happy to see you and we're so happy to have you. But just in case you would have missed any session, let me just do a really quick recap for us. So last week we looked at, didn't you see the red flags? So that stemmed off of a few topics that we had for the year, really along that line. But didn't you see that red flags really help us identify red flags in relationships that we may overlook. We may not even consider that they are red flags. But last week, we would identify a lot of them. And by now, we should be on the same page in terms of when we see red flags, what we should do and how we should act. The week before that, on January 17th, we spoke about how to walk away and live. The week right before that, we talked about walk away and live. So that was like a two-part session. So we
Bring me
dealt with
back,
the
J.
issue of,
Carl.
yes, we spoke about, walking away and live and how to do it. So there were practical steps that persons in relationships can actually do to ensure that they exit a relationship in a most peaceful manner as possible.
Right.
On January 3rd, and a Happy New Year. And on December 27th, we spoke about should all acquaintance be forgot. And that's just the last 5 sessions we looked at. Of course, we are on our 64th session, so you have many more. If you're interested in viewing our sessions, you can find us on Facebook at Hope and Action Network, or you can find us on YouTube. You just type in Hope and Action Network, and you're going to see a list of all of the recordings that we've had so far. And you can choose which one you want and go and look at that. You can share it if you think it's going to impact somebody in a positive way. All right, so that's the last 5 sessions. And I pass it back over to Dr. Ward, who will take us into an introduction of this week's topic.
Yes, thank you, Akisha. Congratulations to you and the other Hope and Action Network's members who really carried last week's session. It was truly a very interactive session. And I know the time is coming when I will step back and just let you all lead. And I also have a vision for the people who join us week after week. We will be calling on some of you to co-host sessions. Some of our regulars, we're going to be asking you to join Akisha and join Gail or join Jillian to co-host. But this evening, we have with us a very, very special guest. And I truly admire this gentleman. I am so thankful since he joined us to share some time ago. Whenever we call on him, he comes and he is so busy. Such a weight is on his shoulders, but he knows the friend of a wounded heart and he serves him. And this evening, he's here to share with us. We know that this is a season that people call by many names, the season of gay abandon, the festive season, meaning the carnival, whatever it is. But there's some people who do not participate in the carnival activities. Some look at stay at home and they look at television. Some host little party, carnival lime at their homes. Some decide to go to camp, or some may decide to leave home and spend the season elsewhere. Wherever we go, it's safety first. We must consider our safety and do what it takes to be safe. This evening, Inspector Stanley is going to take us through many valuable safety tips. And he was here last year at this carnival time as well. And he shared some things with me. Inspector, my dusk to dawn setup. You spoke to us about that. Don't leave the light on in the daytime. People will know that you left it on because you're coming in late. Well, now my duster dawn is fully functional. Thank you for the tip. And I share many of your tips with others. I welcome you and I thank you as well for coming again, even with your busy schedule, to share with us. Inspector, safety first.
A pleasant good afternoon to you, ma'am. It's always been a pleasure whenever I'm invited to this glorious, wonderful, God-given program. I do enjoy your guests and the persons who are always tuning in to listen to this program. This afternoon, I have some more to add to those safety tips. Like you said, for those who are staying at home, those who are going out to look at masks, those who are going to camp especially. So
there is a little problem with the internet.
Let me be a person tend to go.
Inspector,
I'm hearing you.
It's dragging a little. I'm not sure if it's my internet. Let me just ask if everybody else is hearing. Akisha, are you hearing Inspector well?
Well, I'm hearing him loud and clear, very clear.
With no drag. So it's probably my internet. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Inspector. It's probably mine.
Okay. So, you know, crime has been on the increase in Trinidad and Tobago. And the thing about it is that this season, Carnival season, is always a vulnerable season for citizens. And for the criminals, this is the second opportunity to take a bite out of the citizens' hard-working money. Their first bite normally is around Christmas time. So this is their second opportunity to come for your hard-working cash and savings that you would have, saved over a period of time. But let me get into the camping first, because I know a lot of religious persons believe in going to camp, sending their children to camp, and they believe in the fact that they are away from the carnival festivities, so they are somewhere in the countryside, close to some exotic places where there's a lot of forestry, rivers, and even on the beaches. Let me tell you this earlier, Clark. There are a number of persons, wanted persons, who frequent these areas at carnival time. They know for a fact that law enforcement is looking for them, so they stay in areas that are considered isolated. They have no money, they have no sustainable income, so most likely seeing campers will always bring an opportunity for them to steal something. So to protect yourselves against that, one of the things you have to ensure is that when you go to camp, that you set up boundaries. Set up boundaries, and the camp leader should give indicators of those boundaries by planting little sticks and pieces of yellow cloth or red cloth to indicate, do not go beyond this point, do not go beyond that point, stay within the boundaries. When you're within those boundaries, it's good to become creative and set up little alarms, from using cans and strings and so on, in case someone crosses the boundary, especially at night. If persons have to walk off or go outside of the camp, you should stay in a group no less than 2, I would say 3 persons. I will also advise that campers have a whistle for emergency, because sometimes someone falls ill, or they may get a twisted ankle, or they may see something that is strange. It's often good for them to have a whistle to alert persons that there is some form of danger. Avoid wearing slippers and sandals. In case of emergency, slippers or sandals will slow you down in case you have to run or take some form of evasive action. Avoid being adventurous and trying to drink the river water. That water is sometimes not purified, and there may be somebody upstream who has been washing clothes or have taken an opportunity to defecate or urinate in that water there. And you may be downstream and consuming that. In those areas, there are some strange fruits. So you must try to avoid eating those fruits that you're not familiar with at all. If you are by the beach and you intend to take a swim, many years ago, there was an incident where about five persons, including a Canadian national, would have lost their lives, a Christian group, somewhere in Mayaro, Manzanilla, about 2 decades ago. So since then, we are always mindful of persons going to the beach during carnival time. I often ask or suggest persons who walk with at least 25 to 30 feet of rope. Some people go as much as 50, especially when you have small children and you ensure that no one goes, especially for the older adults who are capable of handling themselves in the water. Avoid persons going beyond the rope, and you use the same whistles to, caution persons, especially if you see them duck under the water just before the rope, and they try to be creative by going beyond the rope, because sometimes the undercurrent just suddenly takes persons away, right? A first aid kit is important. Also, insect repellent. There are some strange insects around. It looks like a horsefly, and it causes some irritation and swelling. So insect repellent is important. When going to these places, avoid jewelry. Avoid jewelry. Even though it's fake jewelry, avoid jewelry. But it's important to have a watch, right? For those who can afford, shortwave radios, PriceMart has some of these shortwave radios in a pack that is quite effective to maintain communication for up to about 200 yards in case of emergency. It's important for persons to know their food allergies, because you do not want to get sick in remote areas where the clinic or medical center is far off. And that's another thing too. Speaking about medical centers, it's important for the camp leaders to know the closest medical facility. So if you're going to, let's say, Mayaro, Manzanilla, or even Toko, you must be able to identify the closest medical facility, the closest police station, or the closest fire service, and have those numbers readily at hand in case of emergency. When you come across strangers that you don't know, try your best to give little information about yourself, especially if you come across groups of men. They might ask if it's a church group, and it's a church group, but still try to avoid giving any information, because what those questions that are asked is for information to test the vulnerability of the group. Person might say, is only women alone, how much men, and so on. So they are testing the group to see, how vulnerable the group is by gathering information. So you should avoid, you could even bluff them and tell them, it's a group of youths who came up with a group of police officers and soldiers, just to throw them off any plans to make you all victims of any crime. Lastly, avoid, when you go to camp, avoid, and I know it's something that is rare among churchgoers or church campers, but just in case somebody becomes creative, avoid things like marijuana gummies, marijuana cakes, pills, tablets of any kind, any illicit drug that you are not familiar with, persons tend to take the opportunity to either take it from a parent or an older sibling to go far away to try it. Those things are very dangerous, and I will advise strongly against trying any illicit drug of any kind that you're not familiar with, right? So that is my camping tips for those persons who are bent on going to camping. Also, I would like to add that you should also pay attention to the weather. The weather changes from time to time. There's a lot of Sahara dust in the air. There are some persons who cannot manage the Sahara dust, and they should have requisite masks if they intend to go outdoors in those forested or beach areas for a long period of time. My favorite part, the persons who love to stay home for Carnival and avoid the crowd, you too are also vulnerable, because what happens sometimes you live in a community and most of the persons will go into Port of Spain on Carnival Tuesday, and you find yourself probably in a neighborhood where a lot of the neighbors around you have left and you are alone at home, even your loved ones. And sometimes if you're alone home, one of the things you need to avoid doing is playing loud music on your stereo, on your television, or on a headphone. The reason for that is this: you will not hear when your door is broken down. You will not hear when your window pane has been stretched with a device for persons to enter. You will not hear the tampering of your lock. You will not hear your gate shaking when persons are coming over the gate, and you will definitely not hear when a neighbor is alerting you to someone jumping your wall, right? A lot of persons, love to listen to loud television and loud stereo around Carnival time, enjoying the music. That is very dangerous. Secondly, if you're home alone for Carnival, keep your gate secured with a padlock. If you live in a place where there's no perimeter security, I urge you to keep your doors locked. And if you have to, open a window that you know it is safe, a window that you could manage in terms of monitoring anybody who might push their hand to get in and so on. There's a lot of home invasion taking place, and a lot of the home invasion take place because of the vulnerability of the homes and the way persons sometimes leave their doors or windows not properly secure. And home invasion is not a nice thing. It's not a nice thing, especially at night when you're asleep, right? So now, moving on to number 3, don't let strangers lure you out of your house. There are some females, young females, who come crying for help or assistance with their clothes torn off, and they're asking you for help. And they're so creative, they have a man running at them, and you will open your door, and by the time you open your door, that strange woman who appeared to be beaten pulls out a weapon at you and helps the man and his accomplice come in. So if you see something like that, do not play this Good Samaritan. It's a trick, and I will urge you all, if you see something and you want to help that person, please, keep looking at the person, keep looking at the situation. Dial 99, stay on the phone with the police. If it's legit, you will be able to discern how legit it is. Do not take for granted that even when you're on the phone with the police, that you could take that chance and open your gate and open your door, you will end up in problems, right? So that's a very important tip to remember. My favorite, if you're sleeping at night, keep the lights on the outside on. And all other people cannot sleep in darkness, and I understand that. But when you keep lights on in the house and the lights on the outside off, you make it easier for persons to see. You need to keep the light on the outside. And even if you hear a noise, if you hear a noise in the night, do not call out a name. Do not say, who is there? Who is in the house? You have to stay quiet, because that person may hear when you come off the bed. They may hear when you turn. They may hear your footsteps, and then they will stop to await your position to launch an attack. It is always good if you can secretly dial 999 and leave the phone, let it run, and wait for the 999 persons will recognize there's something wrong. And strangely enough, they have the modern technology to come to you. Wait in an advantage position. Wait in an advantage position so that you can now wait in an advantage position where you can capitalize and maintain safety. If you happen to pick up a device, or you are able to secure yourself properly, or lock your bedroom door and call the police, that will be an excellent choice as well. But do not go sneaking around, and do not go asking questions and searching your house. The advantage of having your house in total darkness is that you know where your coffee table lies, you know where your television is, you know where everything is. So you have the advantage over the person who's now coming into your place, right? And when you have that advantage, you know where to stop, you know where to stay, and you know how to survive. If perhaps you're hearing that noise or movement outside, do not pull your curtain from the middle. Always pull your curtain from the side. And do it very slow so that the person outside does not see the movement of the curtain, and do it from the bottom of the curtain or to the very top if you can get that high. If you can do it from the very top, because they are always looking at the middle of the curtain to see movement, right? If you sleep with a fan on, one of the things you'll want to do is take that fan off for a while to get an opportunity to listen to what is taking place outside, right? Because if the fan is on and let's say rain is falling, that combination together does not give you the opportunity to listen to what is going on. And sometimes somebody will be prizing your luck, and the heavy rain on your roof and the fan will camouflage that noise, and then they will get in to your place. Number 7, a lot of persons who have trouble sleeping at night tend to take sleep aids. Now, I understand the need for these things, but I want you to carefully analyze your security home system before you take a sleep aid and knock out during the night, especially if you live alone, especially if you're female and you live in apartments per se. You need to analyze carefully making use of sleep aids at night. The most vulnerable time for criminal to come into your place most times is between the hours of 10 and 2, and that's the time persons are hard and fast asleep, right? Besides sleep aids, persons have a practice of drinking alcohol at night, a glass of wine to help them sleep, a beer, a scotch and so on, and then you go right to sleep. And you know, it takes you out, especially when the alcohol gets into your system, you are dead sleep. Anything can happen at that time of the night. Now, the good thing is that, not the good thing, you know, sometimes a burglar will come in your house and he will take your stuff, especially if you're dead asleep. But if you get up and you startle them, they too become startled, and their startle sometimes triggers some serious violence. They may even fire a shot unintentionally that may lead to fatality or serious injury. Not all the time these guys literally, you know, commit these acts, these violent acts. They are also scared, and that is why when they have completed these acts, they run away. Even though they may psych up themselves to commit these acts, believe me, they are very scared when doing so. Invest in a small bullhorn, you know, have a nice little community meeting. I know some people don't talk to neighbors, but there's a time to let bygones be bygones, because we need to watch out for each other. So investing in a bullhorn and having conversations about safety. For example, let me tell you what is the in thing with criminals now, right? Let's say you drive to Price Mart or the mall or something, and these guys, what they do, they sit in cars or they just look out. Remember, these criminals, they have whole day 24/7 to look at you, waiting for opportunity while you are focused on bills, you are focused on work, secure insurance, preparing a meal for your family. Their business is to pay attention to you. So what they will do, they will see you park your car in the mall, and then you'll go into the mall. One person will follow you all the way into the mall with your kids, pretend to be in the same store, shopping. You have to pay attention to persons. If you go in a store, you must look to see who is outside the store standing up. You may see the same person twice. Once that happens, you know what is happening. You're being monitored. And whilst you're being monitored, another person comes with a device that is being sold widely on Amazon. It's a tracking device. That tracking device goes into a box and a magnet, and it's easily attached to your bumper, or to, not your bumper, sorry, to the bottom of your gas tank or any metal part of your vehicle. And they don't need to follow you anymore. What happens is that you drive home and they use the app on their phone to locate exactly where your car went to. If they don't have the device, what happened? The other guy will WhatsApp the other person saying like they're leaving the mall. And when you're leaving the mall and approaching your vehicle, you see either two or one person come from nowhere and take your personal belongings. Oh, that is something that is difficult to avoid, especially when your mind is focused on getting things done or getting something for your child, for your husband, for your wife. It is difficult to avoid that. But what I often tell persons, you know, you have to be paying attention to your surroundings. So once you know you're going to your car, avoid staying on your phone. You need to pay attention. There are persons who are walking to their vehicles and they are talking on the phone, they are holding the bags, they have the remote in their hand, they're trying to do all sorts of things. At the same time, somebody's paying attention to you. So you need to stay off your phone, you need to avoid texting, you need to be paying attention to the vehicles that are parked next to you, that you hear the engine running, heavily tinted with two persons. It might be an Aqua, it might be a Wing Road. Those are the vehicles of choice. And once you see that is happening, you retreat and you go to a place, you go to the security, or you call the police and tell them that I'm seeing some suspicious men in vehicles so and so parked close to me. I'm scared that I may be the target of a carjacking. Could you please send someone? You give the vehicle number and so on. But you must be paying attention to these things around you, especially when vehicles are parked next to you and you're hearing the engine run. Now, that is difficult to beat as well, because sometimes a man may come to a store and he may let his wife or other half go into the store while he's outside with the engine running. Sometimes that car is heavily tinted and that car came and parked just before you. If you may not know if that is the situation, but I will tell you, give it some time, stay in the store, give it some time, go back to the store, give it some time for that person to move away. Do not attempt to open your vehicle. Please. Right? Always pay attention when you're entering your vehicle. There are some persons who get into the vehicle and then they start a phone call. They have to check their mirror. They have to check their face. They have to check their purse. They have to check a receipt. And you're sitting duck when you're sitting in your vehicle. When you get into your vehicle, you need to start the vehicle and allow the automatic lock to engage. And once that automatic lock engages, you know, try your best and get out of the people parking area, because they prey on persons who are not paying attention. You see, if you're paying attention, you're looking them in the eyes. Once you're looking intended bandits in the eyes from a distance or from a safe place, they feel uneasy. They think you're a police officer. They think perhaps you recognize them from somewhere, and they get what you call this bummy feeling, and they abandon the operations most of the time, especially if you would have seen them before. And a good thing to do, you see them more than once or twice, pick up your phone and start calling. Pick up your phone and start calling, because you know for a fact, it could be a fake call and all, and pay attention to them and see what they do. Pay attention to them and see what they do. So you're on your way home and you're seeing the same lights behind you. One of the things you could try, if you could try going around a roundabout twice, you could try driving straight to a station and stop. If on your journey you are struck from behind, do not exit your vehicle if you are not comfortable with the person's exiting the vehicle. You need to roll forward and quickly write down the vehicle that has struck you behind number, and then you drive to the nearest police station. If that vehicle suddenly becomes aggressive and try to cut you off, right, you dial 99 and still try to get to the station. Or if perhaps you are fortunate enough to see passing patrol, you know, flick your lights and indicate to them that you need some form of assistance. But don't just carelessly come out of your car on the highway or in places, especially if you do not know the person who has struck you behind. If the person comes up to your vehicle, tell them and your vehicle is able to be driven, tell them, so let's drive to the nearest station. Do not come out to exchange information. Do not give persons you have gotten in an accident your driving permit to take a picture of. Don't do that. A lot of persons are doing that, and you're giving away your safety. You're giving away your safety when you give persons a copy, allow them to take a picture of your driving permit. You're setting up self for fraud. Persons can copy your driving permit, duplicate it, and persons could also find where you're living. It's another trick as well, right? The only persons that you should give your information to is the insurance company and the police. The police do not give other drivers your personal information, especially when it comes to your driving permit. That is a thing of the past, and I stop, and I want you all to maintain that practice. When you get home and you recognize perhaps that you have a pet, or you have or you realize that a window that you keep normally closed has blown open, you need to be satisfied first before you drive in your yard. If you have an electronic gate, ensure that the yellow blinking light does not flash when your gate is opening, because persons, when that yellow light is flashing, persons from a far distance can tell that the gate is open, and they will time you. What they do, they time on their own watch or phone how long it takes for your gate to open and how long does it take for the gate to close. And they practice running that distance, right, in another place because they prepare for that type of crime. So by the time you drive in and your gate is now about to close, once they believe that you have lost sight of them, they start to run towards the gate because they know the yellow light has given a signal. So you need to take that yellow light off as well, right? I was speaking about the dogs. You get in and the dog does not come to the gate. Now I know that some dogs get tired, and I have one that, you know, surprised me at times. He's in the backyard sleeping, and I don't see him, and I become concerned. Dogs know the sound of your vehicle. So when they hear it coming up the street or aiming to come in the yard, most likely, most dogs do come to the gate to greet you. If that doesn't happen, something is wrong, something has happened to the dog. You need to try and, you know, get some help, get extra help from a neighbor. Some people don't understand this and they take the chance and go in and walk into a situation where bandits or robbers are in the house, right? It's always good to have a safe in your house. A lot of people, you know, come looking for your safe. But even though you have a safe, you will not put your jewelry there and stuff like that. The safe, for me, I tell people use the safe as a distraction, right? As a distraction, you could leave some loose cash in there and some papers and some documents that you really don't need. And you secure your jewelry and other items in another secure place, right? Sometimes you may have persons who come to do your air condition or do some type of service in your house or your bedroom, and they may see the safe and they may think that the safe is where the loot lies. And oftentimes persons pick up the safe and go with it, thinking that it is, you know, full with money, but use it as a distraction in these times, right? So moving on, be moving on to the persons who, you know, their intention is to go into the carnival festivities. One of the things I often tell people when you're leaving the home, Ms. Bob has practiced, it's good to invest in dusk-to dawn lights that come on whenever darkness approaches. It's good to have those lights. And when you're leaving home, there's a little window that a lot of us have right over our toilet area. It is good to lock that window or get somebody else or get the welder to put an extra prong on that window. And if you have somebody who has a mannequin, a small mannequin, you know, the head of a mannequin, you could, in long time people had little, I know my grandparents had head mannequin alone with that they used to put their wigs on. You could take those mannequin heads and test your burglar proof to see if the mannequin head goes through that burglar proof, especially if you have French windows. If the mannequin head goes through that window, right, you have a compromise in your security system. It means to say that someone can fit their head. Once their head can fit, the body can fit. And then you have a break-in, right? So that is a way to test your security system, but always try to close that small window when you're going out. For those who live in upstairs buildings and believe that the downstairs is secure and that is the only accessible part, you have something else to know. I have seen criminals actually walk with ladders because no criminal is coming into your place unless he has a study of the vulnerability of your home. Sometimes they will walk with ladders because they believe that the information they have is that upstairs has where most of the money is, and they will put ladders and they will get upstairs quite easily, right? Even if you have a ladder at home, do not leave the ladders outside. You are actually assisting them to get in your home. Don't leave ladders, don't leave forks, don't leave shovels, don't leave pickaxe, especially outside in your yard, right? Because pickaxe has a pointed, the way the pickaxe is configured, a lot of persons use it to prise open burglar-proof and padded locks as well. So avoid tools, avoid garden tools, avoid knives, anything that could be used against you, don't use it. Do not even leave your holes outside. I've seen criminals broke windows and turn on the hole, put the holes inside the house and let the house be flooded out. So when the house is flooded out, you know, the next thing you try to do is try to get the water out. And sometimes you may, depending on where you live, you might open a door, you might go out in an area, your mop and your bucket may be outside the back door, and it's a trick for you to come outside as well. You need to find the origin of the leak before you try to find where it is. If you realize that none of your faucets have been broken, you start to check your windows to see if your window has a hole in it where they would have put the holes to soak your flooring for you to open your home. I just needed to add that from the ones who are staying home. Sorry about that. When you're going out, also to look at mass, try your best to avoid loud noises. Avoid big handbags. Avoid exposing your phones in public. Avoid jewelry. If you have children, try to keep your eyes or your clutches on them at all times. Avoid walking through crowds. I know that is difficult for people, but you need to avoid walking through crowds, right? You need to pay attention to persons who are passing, you know, and close to you over and over, trying to see if they could take something from you. You need to be very much aware of your surroundings at all times. Even if you're looking at something, be mindful of the fact that you may have something that someone will want to steal from you. All right? So you need to be aware of your surroundings at all times. For those who are going out and coming back home to meet relatives late at night, and the relatives inside has to open the door for you, I suggest that you develop a sort of secret code talk, especially if that person comes in every night or they don't have a key or they would have forgotten their key. You need to have secret code talk before you open that door. And even before you open that door, you need to look through the windows, all the windows, to see if that person is under any duress, any gunpoint, or anybody has them in any vulnerable position before they enter the premises. Because a lot of persons, what they do, they will sit and watch somebody walk into a yard or place, and then they will sit in the yard while the yard is dark. And then when they knock on the door, they'll put a gun on their neck and say, look, here we're going to tell them to open, don't make a scene. But you may not see them unless you look. And then by the time you open the door, they rush in behind them, and then you are now the victim of a home invasion, right? And if for some reason that does happen, you try your best to avoid any heroic stuff unless you are a trained martial artist, you need to avoid any heroic stuff by trying to disarm persons or trying to get in a fight with persons. Your family may be standing, watching what it is going on, and in the struggle for a firearm, they may be innocently struck by your heroics, right? Sometimes you need to actually, use what you call judo lyrics. They have caught you, so surrender. Say, look, I have some money in that drawer there. I don't have jewelry. You could take my watch. They may take your car keys if your car is there. You have to, at that stage, you have to surrender without trying to be getting involved in the heroic stuff. Right? Last but not least, if you're on your way home as well and you're driving and you get a flat, do not attempt to change the flat on the highway or any place that is dark where you are vulnerable. You may have to risk losing that tire because sometimes that flat was probably a technique to get you to stop along the way. The police, I've seen a lot of police officers who are aware of the trick with the flat. They tend to get involved and assist citizens, especially women, to change those flat tires, right? You may find a stranger will pull up, 2-3 men might pull up and say, hey, let me help you. Tell them, no, it's okay, my husband and my brother and his cousin is right over there. They are coming just now too. Do not let them get so close to your personal space. Long time it was good for the Good Samaritan to come and help you, but a lot of those Good Samaritans or so-called Good Samaritan has bad intentions, and they plan their attacks way in advance. They pay attention to you, they pay attention to your movement, they pay attention to your car, they pay attention to who is around you, and they launch your attack. Right? They know that you may have a good phone, you're vulnerable because you're probably in high heels with long nails and you have your keys swinging in your hands and you're on your phone. Right? Again, I must emphasize, whenever you are in a mall or any place where you are approaching your vehicle, call back that person, no matter how serious that call is. Call back that person or tell that person quickly, I'll have to call you back. Do not take calls when you try to avoid using your phones when you're walking the street to your vehicle or going into your home. You pull up outside, you're on your phone outside, and you want to continue the conversation at suite, and you have your phone in your ear, opening your gate manually, and your engine is running. You are giving away your car, your phone, and your life. Right? So those are the tips that I have for you all. Feel free to ask any questions or any concern about what I would have said, because I know I would have said a lot. I will try my best before the week is out to try and get some of these tips probably typed up and sent to Miss Dan so that she could share with persons, because I may have been talking very fast and it may be a difficult time for persons to write everything down. But feel free to ask any questions as I hand back over to Ms. Dan.
Inspector, we sincerely thank you for these tips. I realize we got many additional tips. So what a difference a year makes. Last year you were here and we thought that was it. I see the value in inviting you back this year because the criminals seem to be studying very hard. Very, very hard.
Yeah, they have outside influence. They have persons who teach them things from Jamaica. There are persons who teach them things from the US. They see things on television, they see things on YouTube. And in their own creative mind, they come up and they pay attention to people. When you see persons on the street who are doing nothing and just paying attention to you, they're just watching they're very polite, they're saying good morning. Those persons' responsibility is to gather information about your movement.
Mhm, mhm.
The persons who will strike at you are not the persons you're seeing looking at you. That is how organized they are.
Yes, this is quite a lot. Very, very informative and useful. As you were speaking, I was trying to picture the different scenarios that you presented. And indeed, I see the need for us to be vigilant at all times. Inspector, I noticed something recently. I traveled twice recently, and my son had my car, and young people are very careless. My car is, hardly ever left alone, I should say. But when I returned from one of the trips recently, I noticed that the little knob that you move to put the key in, if you need to use the key, on both the driver's side and the passenger side, are missing. We have the remote, so we hardly use a key.
Yeah.
But if the remote isn't working, that little knob that covers that hole where the key can go in, on both sides of the car are missing. And there are 2 marks on the trunk as well. So it seems as though my car was somewhere and someone had enough time to try to get in either door and the trunk. There are 2 marks on the trunk. I don't know if it was a double piece of wire they were pushing. But yes, 3 points of entry have been tampered with. And yes, it tells me that they're there and they're trying to get vehicles. They're trying to get into and probably steal vehicles. But you know what is the thing about it? I actually dreamt that someone was trying to take the vehicle but couldn't get it. So it was as clear as ever. But still, I know that I have to be very, very cautious. Because, I mean, it's a good vehicle. And I thought they used to take a particular type, but it seems to be any type of vehicle.
No, they're stealing anything for any purpose. As a matter of fact, last November, we came across a guy's phone. And this is an underworld chat. And he's in an underworld chat. And they have a list of vehicles that they are selling in the underworld chat.
Wow.
From BMW, go right back down to pickups. And we were shocked with the prices. 10,000 for a vehicle, 11,000 for a... Yeah, because what happens, some people buy vehicles for parts, some people buy vehicles for robbery, some people buy vehicles for hits, and this is the type of network we are dealing with. And what they do most of the time, some of the vehicles are so high-tech, they cannot be stolen as they used to steal Toyota, Nissan vehicles long time. A lot of vehicles are high-tech, so the only way for them to get the vehicle, they need to actually take the keys from you personally. Yeah, personally. If you come and you see if you go to some people have a thing they do. They go to the grocery in the mall. They buy the groceries, they pack the groceries in the vehicle. Or they go to the bank, leave the bank with a large envelope, put the envelope below the seat, and then go into the grocery or go into the food court. And we came across some guys last year, well-neat, well-dressed gentleman who sells insurance. I don't want to call his name. And he was seen in all the banks walking behind customers. And when he heard your transaction and see you leave with the envelope, he sends a text message. He sends a text message.
Okay.
And by the time you get out, you are followed home and you're robbed. So a lot of persons were innocently blaming the tellers in the bank.
Yes.
But the tellers in the banks do not have access to their phones during transaction.
Okay.
They don't. No, they don't. That's an unfair statement. The actions are done by persons who are in the line monitoring, hearing the machines loudly, or persons who are, yes, persons who are leaving the bank with large envelopes. That is what they are paying attention to. So persons who are engaging in such transactions, if you go for money, don't go for money and then go for grocery. Go for money and leave one time, because you will be a target. And like I mentioned earlier, they have this device. You could check it out on Amazon. It's like a coin. You put it in a box and you stick it below the vehicle. Some of them you use a SIM card, because we have gotten SIM cards in some, and then they follow you home. They started using it with prison officers, and now they're using it on ordinary citizens. All right? I do not know why persons don't have bigger platforms or bigger programs to sensitize persons about these things, but it's good for citizens to know how to be aware of what is, their surroundings, and know when they're in a vulnerable place, because the criminals are everywhere.
Yes. And
Yeah,
very
they're
intelligent.
very.
And we always encourage people on our program to share the recording, share it. It's on YouTube. It's there. And, I don't want it to just sit there. I'm not on YouTube to make money.
Mm.
I'm on YouTube to share information. I'm not making any money on YouTube, actually. I'm there to share information. Hope and Action Network is about improving the society. So when you come on, when you log on, bring somebody next week to hear. And then when we put the recording on YouTube, share it. Just share it. Share it on whatever platform you're on, so that others can learn. Yes, Akisha, take it from here for me, please. Thanks.
All right. So let's just take the hand that's up. Anita.
Yes, good night, everyone.
Hi,
I am so thankful for all this information. I'm sitting here and this information, I'm getting so scared by just listening to this information, because I know I have church members going to camp. I have family members going to carnival and so forth. And as Inspector said, you drive in your car and somebody bunks you from behind. Don't stop and come out. That happened to one of my sisters in Trinidad. She was driving her car and she recognized, and I told her, I said, you had no right to come out of the car because you recognized a car driving behind you. You speed up, the car speed up. You slow down, the car slow down. And the fella come and he touched her. And she came out of the car. And as she came out of the car, she said, oh, it's a little bounce. And again, she talking to him. Somebody jump into the car and gone with the car. Up to now, she haven't gotten back her car. One day she started crying for the Spain and she called. And when they told her the number, she said, they tell her that car is your car with a wrong number plate. The number plate on that car that you are calling for me belong to a Toyota, not to a Tida. So I said, you are the one that you allow the person to take your car, because from the time they touch you, you should have continued driving. You were close to a police station. And she didn't, a newborn car she just bought, she never got it back. So I was just thankful for this information tonight so that I could share it, because I sent out the link, yes. But I know some wouldn't come on. So I got to have them listen to the tape internet. And Inspector, I want to thank you so much for all these information. I'm very, very thankful for them, so that I have been enlightened. Down to today, I was home and I said, if I used to go to camp, I don't think I'll be going to camp now because of what is happening with people around. And just what you said, people could be in the bush hiding, bandits, and it's the same thing I thought of today. Same thing. So I want to thank you so much for this information. And I felt scared about even going out. I mean, you're coming back in and so forth. I'm really scared. But I trust in God for his protection. Thank you so much for this information tonight.
You're welcome, Ms. Forbes.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you for that comment. We have Davis here.
Hi, good night, everyone. All right, well, Inspector, the information was very informative. Everything was very spot on in terms of what we as regular citizens should know and take in. But I have to say, just by listening to what you were saying, I felt the opposite of Ms. Forbes. I felt upset. And the reason why I felt upset is because why do we, as regular hardworking people, who are just focused on taking care of our own, have to be always on guard and always in this stressful state and the state of anxiety to protect ourselves and our property? It's just that I know this is not just Trinidad alone, this is a worldwide thing, but it's still upsetting to know that the world is like this. Our little island of Trinidad and Tobago is like this. Just before I came on, first time, I actually pulled up this carnival song that everybody's reading about, this Michael Teja, DNA. Because I never watched the video, and I heard it playing all over. So I said, no, check this video out. And I watched the video, a nice video, and then I checked out some of the comments. And it seems to be a lot of foreigners, and everybody was like, Trinidad, beautiful, can't wait to come back home. Yes, it's in our DNA. I know they're saying so much of positive things about the country, and in my mind, reading the comments, I was like, but you all don't know the crime. You all don't know how much you're getting robbed. You all don't know you can't even go to the bank and be safe. So, you know, people outwardly see it as a positive, but just being here, watching the news every day, reading online news every day, seeing death and crime and robbery, and then added to what you say is like, where is the positive? Almost every single person on this platform almost has some type of story in their lives where they were a victim of some kind of crime. Even me. But in my particular case, I wasn't robbed because I saw the person right before they tried to snatch my handbag. That was by the grace of God. Because just a quick story of it, I was going on Charlotte Street from work. And I didn't know better at the time, so I walked with my regular medium-sized handbag. And I remember walking down from the top of Charlotte Street, coming down there. And just like that, somebody stopped in front of me, so I almost bumped into them. So I had to quickly stop. And then in the corner of my eyes, I saw somebody super close to me, almost bump into me too. So this person was walking so close behind me that when I bumped into the person in front, they almost bumped into me. And when I looked to my side, a young teenager, and he looked at me, and I kind of hold my handbag a little tighter. And he started to walk out in the road on Charlotte Street and started to curse at me. So I kept looking at him. So apparently I spoiled his plan. And then once again, by the grace of God, there was a man walking in front of me, pretty strapped guy. And in my mind, I was like, okay, just stay close to the person in front of you because the man, I know something happened again, some protection there. And I kept walking foot on foot with this guy, and the other guy walking in the road and cursing at me. And I realized the guy in front looking at him as well because he heard me cursing. And eventually, he swung up by KFC there, going up to the plannings from Charlotte Street side. And I was like, thank God. So in that day, I learned my lesson and never walk with a big handbag and quarter spoon again. Little small clutches in my hand or push the money in a pocket, not even a phone I'll walk with. Going downtown, I take off my chain, I take off my earrings. It's like, you had to be like super prepared like in the military just to walk downtown to get something. So it's really unfortunate that we have to live like this. And this is what the sins of the world bring people to. So thank you for the information still. But it's just hard to be happy with everything.
Right. Thanks for your comments. I mean, if anybody else has a question or a comment, you can feel free to do so. But while we wait, I just wanted, you said something about a mannequin head. And I mean, I'm thinking, should I get one and pass it through all of my windows, you know, to just make sure? You know, I would have seen videos of persons forcing themselves through burglar proofs before and with skill. It's very scary to think that persons can actually fit through those small spaces. But I guess that is a reality in the society we live in today. I'm seeing a hand. Irma, please make your comments or contribution.
Pleasant night
Hi.
to Mr. Stanley.
Pleasant good night to you, ma'am.
My contribution is strangely, anytime I'm living in Tobago and anytime I'm leaving here to go to Trinidad, preferable, I will go down with the early boat, the 6:30 boat, so that if I'm spending a week and I stay right in Queen Street, in Oliver Canal, and yes, I have a son living there. And you wouldn't believe that when I reach down, anything I need, I get it on my way up. When I get inside, no outside again until I'm leaving to come back home. Yes, I always operate that way. So it gives me more strength and courage to be much more careful and vigilant about things around me. And then even when I'm staying by him, you know, I rather stay on the floor and always anticipate that if a shot should come through the window,
Well done.
I down. It bounce on the wall and, you know, it will drop either on the bed, but I on the floor. Yes, I always do that.
Oh, Diane?
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
I'm gonna add. I think I'm the only one not from Trinidad on this Zoom. I'm from St. Lucia, and Inspector, you were telling me things that I have not yet experienced, and I know it's coming because we are getting really bad in St. Lucia, especially for the buying of vehicles. That's a new way of trapping people. So I thank you for the insight. I thank you for the information. I thank you to know what's happening, where I have to be a little more vigilant, especially as you say for the banking thing. I guess for me, when I do the bank, I just go with my purse and I walk to my vehicle. I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm gonna carry a bag, whether it has other plastic bags in it or a towel or something to make it look bulky, because they are watching you. They are aware of your movements, and they, as you said, you're right, they're monitoring, and where I live, it has a gap, so they by the road, and they see when you're coming on the bridge, and they see when you're going out, so they know your comings and the goings. And as you said, they're pleasant, of course. They good morning, good afternoon. You answer them, but at the end of the day, they're watching because they know your movements. So I thank you, Inspector. I thank you for all the persons from Trinidad. St. Lucia is not far from you. And I will take heed, and I will take the advice and pass it on as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so there are some comments in the chat. Awesome and eye-opening. We have one comment from Marjorie. We have Trinidad as paradise still. Crime is a worldwide phenomenon. Sure. Inspector, thank you very much for all of this crucial safety strategies. Is there any information you can give regarding things like pepper spray and others that are sometimes used for personal protection and defense? And good night, Inspector. Can you tell me how I can get pepper spray legally?
I love those questions. So let me start off by telling you this. I have started advising some neighbors that they could have, you know, pepper spray made from their own concoction and keep it in the house. Because let's say you come across a situation at night that I explained, and you have your pepper spray right next to your bed. Your pepper spray will, especially if you make it really good with the Congo pepper or the scorpion pepper, you have a proper repellent for bandits. Unfortunately, you cannot take that pepper spray that you make at home out with you in the public. For you to get it legally, you will have there there's a license that you could apply for through the commissioner. And I think they're showing some preferences to a lot of women with the pepper spray, right? So there's a procedure, there's a form to be filled out. You can get that form at the corner of Park and Richmond Street. It's the same area where you go to apply for firearm license. But before you make that journey, I work right upstairs that building. So I will go there first thing in the morning, as I always do. And I will try to get a copy of the form and the other prerequisites. And I will send it to Ms. Bobb-Ward so that she will now share it with all of you who is on the platform here, because it is something, important. But do the concoction at home, make sure that you keep it in a safe place, because it is very effective. Right? The lady before who spoke about St. Lucia, yes, I've been monitoring St. Lucia. I have been also monitoring some of our artists that went to St. Lucia. So I'm paying attention to what is taking place in some of the other Caribbean islands and the importation of some of our bad habits here in Trinidad that are, being spread across the island. What I want to emphasize, as usual, this device, the phone, is the greatest distraction and the greatest appetizer for criminals. Keep your phone in a safe place, even if it rings whilst you're on the move. Do not take that call. Do not take that call. The lady before, I think Ms. Snaggs mentioned trying to avoid walking with large handbags. A perfect suggestion, right? Large handbags tend to give criminals the impression that you're going on. That is a lot of things in that bag to get, and they will go the distance. So all these contributions are excellent, and I will seek to address that issue with that pepper spray issue bright and early tomorrow morning.
Very well, and we appreciate that in advance. Inspector, I want to thank you for joining with us this afternoon, for sharing with us these insightful tips that, of course, we are going to apply because now we know it. We are so grateful for your presence and your continued support to Hope and Action Network, a Friend of a Wounded Heart program. If we have no more comments, I would just ask Inspector to just give us some, closing comments on what you would have spoken about a while ago, so that we can, really ensure that we can take away something with us this evening, apart from all of the great tips you would have given us before.
All right. So I am the inspector. One of my role and function is to monitor gang investigations. And I have been monitoring gang activities heavily within a recent time. Gang activities are street crimes and street persons who engage in these activities. And sometimes they just appear on you with their gang rivalry issues. It's unfortunate that on December 27th, an innocent citizen would have lost her life just peeping out her window. The lady from Tobago mentioned that whenever she is in Trinidad, she sits on the floor. I want to go back to the situation, if you're in your car and you realize that you're seeing some gang activity taking place on the nation roadway, do not try to take out your phone to capture what is going on. Do not try to follow the incidents. Do not try to follow the thugs. Do not try to knock down the perpetrators or get involved, because you may be struck by a bullet. The first thing you do, you stop your vehicle to the side, you lock your doors, and you get down behind your dashboard. Get your family away from the dashboard as low as possible. And you turn off the radio, keep your family calm, and you listen for when the shooting stops. When the shooting stops, you peep to ensure that everything is okay. Do not just stick your head up. You peep. I'm sorry that I have to be training you all or teaching you all like real officers, but these are survival techniques that I want to leave with you all, especially what I saw that happened on December 27th in St. Augustine on the highway. You're in your car, do not become a hero. Pull on the side, ensure that it's safe, lock your doors, and wait and listen for when the shooting stops, right? Have a safe carnival, everyone. I'm available anytime if you want some more tips, because what I do is that when I see new things develop, I try to create some solution to guard against it or to prevent it from happening to other persons. So I'm here whenever you all need me again, and I'm grateful for the invitation on the show always. Again, thank you very much and have a good night.
Yes, Akisha, just permit me to say something before you wrap up. Inspector, it's always a pleasure. Always rich information. And I know we had a conversation regarding subliminal messages in songs. People on this platform, the messages that are sent subtly in some of those songs are entering the brains of our children and are transforming them into what we would not want them to be. We cannot allow our children to listen to everything. And Inspector has agreed, Inspector, you have agreed to come on the program again to talk about some of these songs and the messages that are sent. Some of them are actually roped into gangs and other activities because of what they hear. Music is powerful. Music is intoxicating. And these people who sing these songs know that it's a part of their recruitment strategy. We have to rescue our children. So, Inspector, as soon as you're ready, whenever you're ready, just tell me. I know you're a busy man. And I also want to ask us on this platform to continue to pray for Inspector Wayne Stanley. He is doing a great job. And we need to ask the Lord to protect him, to keep him safe. Because everybody would not like what he's doing. But we are happy, Inspector, that you have dedicated your life to this kind of thing. You are helping us. Thank you so much. Back to you, Akisha.
You're welcome.
Right. So some points to note on this topic. Always remember, Jesus is the friend of a wounded heart. So despite whatever you may be going through, despite how you may, whatever experiences you may have had concerning and specifically relating to this topic, safety, remember that, we still have life, and so we still have, so we remember that Jesus is the friend of a wounded heart. Also, during this time, be safe. And let us make positive choices as we go about our days. All right. At this time, I just want to remind you that these programs are all recorded. You can view our recordings on Facebook and on YouTube, just the Hope in Action Networks. We are also on every Wednesday via the very same login credentials that you will use to log in this evening. So next week, we have another session, and our session next week is going to talk about my love, my Valentine. And I guess you know why, right? So until then, I do hope that we all have a good night and a good week. And see you guys again on Wednesday. Remember to invite someone else so that they too can benefit from what we do here at Hope in Action Network, a friend of a wounded heart program. So at this time, we are going to pray to close off this evening's session. Dear Lord, we want to thank you for a successful session this afternoon, and thank you for allowing everything to run smoothly. First of all, where we could have heard the inspector, we could have heard the comments and contributions made by other persons. So we really want to thank you for the platform being able to function the way it was supposed to. But we want to thank you for Inspector for taking the time out to be with us this evening and to share with us some insights on how we can be safe during this time and just generally as a matter. So Lord, I just ask that you be with Inspector as well as Dr. Ward would have highlighted. He is doing a wonderful work. He is doing something that falls straight in line with what we believe at Hope and Action Network. So we pray that you will be with him and his job, help him to be safe as he go out there to do his responsibility, and his team as well. Dear Lord, I pray for every person that is logged on here this evening, and for everyone who would view this recording at a later date. Dear Lord, I pray that it will impact somebody, and we will not just hear what was said this evening, but also apply it in our lives, realize that safety is important, and in all things that we do, we should be smart, and in that process, safety should come first, dear Lord. Help us to have a good night rest as we separate to our various homes. I pray that you allow us to have a safe night. Bless and keep us is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Have a good evening, everybody.
Same to you.
Thank
And
you.
have a good evening.
Bye.
Good evening, good night, everyone.